to deal with, but here we are. First thing I'll discuss is, one, what not to do, following old clientele, and finding new clientele. Now, starting off, I like to say most of us were probably farmers, and now we're hunting. We've turned to hunters. What I mean by that is we had well-established clientele feeding us work throughout the year. However, during the COVID situation, we now have to go out and hunt for our prospects. So let's just start off with what not to do. The first thing not to do is get overly anxious or aggressive with your original clientele. We all have to remember we're in this together. This is something new. Like I said, no one really knows, what the new normal, or what I like to call the temporary normal, will be. But what most important to do is know your market. Know what's going on with your prospects. Know what's going on with your prospects. For instance, you can't keep fishing in the same old fishing pond if you're not getting any fish out of there. So what I mean by that is it's time to look for new ponds, or time to see where the fish have gone. Now, one example of what not to do, I'll give you a personal example of mine. I had a gentleman looking to get some business from me about 2 months ago. And the gentleman showed up unsolicited into my place of business, which is a senior living community. Now, many of you know we were on lockdown, to the point we can't just allow unsolicited visitors in. The gentleman proceeded to show up 6 times in a 3-hour basis. So what would that say to me? That one, he doesn't care about my time or the well-being of my residents. So he went on my priority list from here to here. So he was dismissed. So that's really what you don't want to do. You want to stay calm, learn your market. We all got a little extra time on our hands now. Do some market analysis, see what's going on in terms of trends and where your clientele are going. Now, in terms of following your old clientele, I'll give you an example of mine. One of the major feeder sources I used to get work from was rehabilitation centers. However, most people have canceled elective surgeries, and most doctors are not referring there in a fear of COVID. So I've got in touch with several local doctors and several local hospitals to determine where are these people going, where are the clientele going. I find out through my market research that they're going home with a home health order. So what does that say to me? That tells me this: I can no longer fish in the same pond. I have to follow the fish to the new pond. So I started collaborating with local home healths, hospice companies, and private duty aides to see if they have any clientele to benefit from our services. Now, you'll see many people have done this, especially in the Williamsburg area. Namely, the restaurants around here have been hit pretty hard, but they've changed, they've adapted. So obviously no in-dining is going on, or to minimum degrees. Many of them have increased the level of delivery services. So you just gotta kind of follow the path and see where your clientele are going. Now, you might not be able to pack out your restaurant, but you might be able to deliver 100 meals a night. So you're still getting the same service, just not in the traditional sense. Next, what do you do in terms of finding new ponds? Well, the old ways aren't working anymore. You got to start thinking outside the box. A colleague of mine on the ambassador committee, he just told me a story about a few weeks ago about a local hotel who took a big hit. Traditionally, tourism is a big factor for Williamsburg. Now, we all know that tourism has taken a major hit during the age of COVID. So what this hotel went and did was they started renting out rooms to local construction workers working on the expansion of 64 locally. So the rooms are still getting filled, but not in the traditional, but they're still filled, which is absolutely fantastic for us. Secondly, when you do find this new clientele, you're going to have to show them the benefits that you have to offer of your product. Most people are scared now. Most people, a lot of have hunkered down in their homes and their fear of COVID. So first step, make them comfortable. Make sure that, come to their comfort level. An example for me is many people weren't doing many in-person tours of assisted living communities. Well, start doing virtual tours. Start showing around your community from the comfort of their own home. This way they can see the benefits from safety. Secondly, tailor your product to your clientele. Literally turn on the yes mode. What are they looking for? Make it happen. You're going to have to take your product and tailor it to the individual so that they see the benefit even during COVID era. I'm not a big fan of incentives, but during this age, you are seeing incentives. With the incentives, I would give out thoughtful incentives that would keep moving you forward. You know, third month free, third, you know, in terms of maybe a service shoot. This way you get them locked in and you keep them moving forward. And also, in terms of finding new clientele, if you were marketing before a certain way, it's not working. I'll tell you that. In-person marketing, it's tough these days. Cold calls, no one wants to deal with them. My recommendation, change it up. If you haven't done it before, try it now. Social media is huge. Social media is the new wave. Zoom, obviously, Facebook, things along that line. You could have many events on there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass that to Chris Harris, my colleague, to discuss that with you further.
Thanks, Chris. I'm going to echo a lot of the same things that Chris said, and then I'm going to segue over to Mark. Something that might be helpful, I'm going to give you 5 insights into what's going on in the consumer mindset right now. First, people are stressed, whether it's because of political unrest, COVID itself, or just general uncertainty in what's going on in the marketplace. The second piece is there are more business opportunities and challenges happening simultaneously right now than probably ever before. It's just crazy out there. Unfortunately, you had some businesses that closed their doors. You have other businesses that have pivoted and maybe they're struggling a little bit, holding their own. And then you got other businesses that are getting crushed with new work because of new opportunities that have occurred. And they're dealing with scaling problems, all that sort of stuff. The third point is, according to a recent Forbes research, there are 70% more people online than ever before, which is what Chris is kind of alluding to. And another survey, Digital Commerce 360, said 76% of more people are purchasing online. So they're online and they're buying stuff. Another factor that's happening is there are a ton of people working remotely right now. In a recent survey from the Brookings Institute, they're saying 50% of adult workers are working remotely in some capacity right now. To add a little more challenging situation, according to Zwillow, about roughly 3 million young adults under the age of 25 have moved back home, either with parents or grandparents. So what does that mean? There are a lot of folks working from home with kids, young and old, trying to get things done. They're trying to remote teach some of their kids because they've got hybrid school age kids situations going on. They may have adult loved one or an aging parent that they're taking care of. And I don't want to even think about how difficult it must be if you're a single parent right now with all of that going on. So I think we have this misnomer, oh man, working remotely is great. For a good chunk of folks, it's anything but. And the last point that I want to make is, for the most part, consumers are looking favorable on organizations that are giving back to the community in a genuine way. And I want to touch on 3 of those points right now. So the first one, which Chris was alluding to, this whole idea of social media. So you've got a bunch of folks online right now. It would make sense to directly solicit those folks, either through LinkedIn or through email. But yeah, I mean, there's some ways to do that. I really wouldn't recommend it. That's like, I just met you and now you're trying to sell me something. I'm going to be put off by that, particularly in a tiny environment like Williamsburg and surrounding area. The only way I'm really going to do business with you is from a direct referral or a sterling recommendation from someone. If that's not really at your disposal, what you can do is show folks what you can do versus telling them what to do. And that's where social media can really come in handy. I work with a couple of law firms, and there's one in particular that does a really good job of being on top of PPP loan changes, SBA loans changes, facility regs that might change, employment things that business owners might need to know what's going on. But within hours of that stuff coming down from legislation or regulation, this person and this team is immediately putting stuff on, here are some things business owners need to know about, immediately within an hour. That has been a huge draw for her and a great way for her to collect and find new prospects, is by throwing stuff out there that's meaningful and relevant and timely for folks. And Chris, I know that you've been doing that. You've been interviewing residents, which is kind of a unique spend, but saying, hey, what do you think about what's going on? Well, that's cool stuff and worth watching. Bottom line is throw out stuff there that people will enjoy. I think there's a misnomer and use. There's a misnomer that you have to use the social media platform. I've seen a lot of folks, and I do this, with permission from a prospect, particularly in a B2B situation. This is a business to business. If they've got a problem that they're working on, or that's really got them confounded, I will take the time to do the research and create an article or a video specifically addressing that challenge to show them, hey, here's a possible solution for you. And then email it directly to them. Now I can repurpose it because I'm going to change the names up and I'm going to definitely lean hard on confidentiality. But I'm going to let that person, hey, you inspired me to write this piece of content and I'm going to send this to you. And I'm also going to send it out to the world. That has been a great instrument of showing people what I can do instead of telling people what I can do. To reiterate what Chris was saying, you need to mix and match how you prospect. So a great example of mixing and matching old school with new school, cold calling, well, I'll bend on that a little bit. We're gonna call it a warm call. So my other business partner, Will Turner, did a direct mail campaign with a bunch of CEOs that we were targeting. In a particular industry, and we sent out a certified mail because why? No one gets certified mail anymore. Handwritten letters, the whole deal. I did old-fashioned follow-up calls. Did you get it? Do you have any questions? And then directed them to an informational webinar based on research and surveys that we did around actually this topic about prospecting. And that's been a wildly successful campaign. But what I'm sharing with you is mix and match kind of old school, new school stuff. Different combinations you're gonna find are gonna work for different markets based on what you're doing. And the last point I wanna make, which ties in a little bit about what Chris was doing, is these ideas of strategic partnerships. Strategic partner in my mind is some either organization or individual that satellites your target market in some capacity and is working with them. They're not competitors, but they're colleagues of yours, either individuals or organizations. I think what we tend to do right now, and I've seen it done, is we rely heavily on a pipeline of referrals from them, and everybody's pipeline might be getting a little slim. To Chris's point, instead of pumping them for referrals, maybe sit down with them and figure out what's going on in their world. Get some insights. There was a survey that was submitted to us, a response of, does anybody have any projections for 2021? I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, man. I have no idea what's going to happen in the next 90 days. But the more of your strategic partners that you sit down with, you can actually cobble together kind of their view on what they think is going to be coming down on the pipeline, the trends they're seeing, and you may uncover an opportunity to collaborate on an initiative based on that. And yeah, you might have your target market in mind when you collaborate on these initiatives. For example, I've seen, and I'll pick on your industry a little bit, Chris, I've seen where a senior living facility or community will partner with a physical therapy outfit, and they'll offer balance clinics to prevent residents from falling. Well, those balance clinics are not only offered to residents, they're offered to other seniors in the surrounding community outside. So it serves as this double purpose of, one, you're showing folks how you can help folks, but it's also serving the larger community. An idea that I was thinking, again, I'm a little soft on the hospitality side, but I would love, and I just gave you a whole bunch of information about us stressed out parents that are working remotely. Somehow hospitality and maybe a nanny service and a food truck or something comes together to give us a break. That'd be a great way to help out the community and solicit us directly. But to highlight basically some things that I want you to take home is, one, don't solicit directly on social media. Just don't do that. To show folks what you can do. Don't just tell them, here's how cool I am. Show them how cool you are, particularly in the service industry. Mix and match different prospecting styles and approaches till you figure out the winning combination. Sometimes it's old school, sometimes it's new school. And then meet with your referral partners to get kind of a finger on things to come, as well as to come up with unique ways to collaborate, particularly with initiatives that are gonna benefit the community. And I think, Mark, you're gonna talk a little bit about where you've seen competitors do that as well.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And I will definitely piggyback on the strategic partnerships a little bit before going into a couple of other items. But I think the biggest thing for me this year, particularly, I'm an individual that has migrated to small business from big enterprise. So it's been a huge learning year for me to figure out what's what and selling at a small business, non-enterprise level. And I think the biggest thing that I learned early once COVID hit was really this unexpected, unanticipated collaboration between what would be competing organizations out in the marketplace. So, and I've seen this with plumbing companies, electricians, construction companies, actually a couple of professional cleaning services, and retailers, particularly going back to talking about like restaurants, for example, partnering up on specials for pickup and or delivery, and sharing resources. Proximity, we're struggling with getting people to work. A lot of it had to do with the PPP money out there and people just sitting on the sidelines. So they were actually sharing and for food production. A pretty cool example I've seen, and actually this was 2 weeks ago. I'll go back to the plumber reference. Two well-known established plumbing companies, in our geographic region, were dealing with what everyone was dealing with. Both of them had certain specialty areas within the plumbing arena. One of the one owner just flat out called the other owner because they knew that the other owner had a great reputation and they competed all the time, and wanted to see if there was an opportunity to like get through this circumstance together and partner on a couple projects, and they did, and two things have come out of that that situation. One, they've gone from competitors to becoming friends, and they're going to bid and work on future projects together. And in return, when they get out of COVID, they're going to be even stronger than some of the other plumbing companies out there because they were able to strategically think out of the box and use one another's resources to go after something. So I thought that was pretty amazing. But if you're a business owner or just an entrepreneur out there, definitely this is the time of the year before we get into 2021 to really take a hard look at who your competition is. Look at what their portfolio is typically known for, and see if there's any opportunities to build a strategic alliance. It doesn't mean you need to sell your business, give away your business at all. It's just it's a dollars and cents type of thing. How can each party get paid, and how can you be even stronger moving forward? Because going back to both Chris's, I think everyone's optimistic about 2021, but I mean, there's still a lot to be determined, a lot to be unknown, and I'd rather be running into 2021 with some alliances, which is what I've done. Cloud9's an example of that. We've partnered with IT companies that specialize in IT areas that we do not, and we're referring business between one another. And quite frankly, it's probably what has gotten us through COVID to this point, and is positioning us to have a good 2021. The other thing I wanted to talk about is sales professionals. I am meeting, and particularly within the Williamsburg Chamber community, is outstanding. I haven't had the opportunity to meet as many people as I want in person due to COVID, but participating in Zoom events, Zoom networking, et cetera, is huge. If you have salespeople in your organization, they better be participating in some of these networking events. If not, your salespeople will be trailing, or already are trailing, probably already are trailing. Or if you're an owner, it's a very warm way to get your name and your business out there. I know it's uncomfortable for some people doing that type of networking, but it's really not invasive at all. They're pretty laid back, and to be honest with you, but I've gotten a tremendous amount out of it. But the other thing I would encourage you, if you're, I look at the landscape of incredible owners, and usually when you're an entrepreneur and you start a small business, you're an expert in something. So I'll use my company for an example. But Cloud9, we have experts in engineering and particularly information technology that they're just brilliant, but they don't necessarily understand sales and marketing. My previous organization, I had to lead, train, mentor, coach salespeople, and also carry a bag. So I had to produce. So there are awesome organizations out there like Refuse Ordinary, who Chris Harris is as a partner of. Chris, I don't know how many times I've hired you over the last decade. It's probably been every bit of 4 to 6 times, but you did a phenomenal job turning some of my farmers into hunters, and quickly. And I've shared with you before, I had a couple people that I was like, well, they show signs of life, but I'm not sure. I brought Chris in, and he either put a stamp on that unsure, or the sign of life turned into, for where I was, President Club winners who started making me a lot of money. So, Chris, your organization's fantastic. And if you own a business and you don't know sales that well, there's people like Chris that you can hire. The last thing that I want to hit is, my motto for COVID-19 or the pandemic is no different than what my motto was, but during the last 2 recessions, post 9/11 and 2009-8 timeframe. And that is, if you're a leader and you're an owner and you were paying people to sell and move your product, flat out, the motto is no excuses. Like, I have not changed anything.
I'm back.
I think we lost Mark. Chris, did
Mark?
you want to? Yeah, Mark's gone. Mark's gone. Well, Chris, did you have anything else that you wanted to add to what he was saying before we ask if there's any questions out there?
No, not really. And I appreciate the the praise and the plug. I wasn't expecting that. No, I think it does everything that we're doing. We're all coming from different perspectives. We represent different industries. I think the biggest thing that I would echo from Mark is just get out there and talk to folks and figure out what's going on, not only in your industry, but surrounding industries. I think that's the best way we can kind of get our arms around things to come. I mean, even with a supposed vaccine that was released yesterday from Pfizer, that's great. We still don't know how that's going to impact us in the next couple of days, months, weeks ahead. One of the biggest strategies that I encouraging folks to do is embrace a 90-day strategy, kind of get your arms around what might be happening in the next, till January type stuff. And then as we kind of start seeing more trends line up, you can start projecting a little further. But I'd love to kind of open it up to whomever's watching us live to go ahead and submit some questions to Courtney. And then Courtney, you can kind of pitch them out to us, because that's kind of where the rubber hits the road. We'd love to hear from you guys and some of the challenges you might be having, and while you got us live, pick our brains a little bit.
Yep. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to submit them. I'm happy to read them.
Amber should be asking us a question. I know she's watching. Amber's also.
I'd like to chime in just as well, in case anyone has any questions in regards to kind of just piggybacking on what Mark was saying about getting out there and working. We might be working twice as hard as you were before for half the amount of revenue bringing in. But when the new normal is over, the floodgates are going to open back up. And if you really work steady now and you set that platform for the next 90 days, whatever it may be, when things start getting back to normal, your clientele, your prospects already have you in your head. That's the guy I want to talk to. He was compassionate. He was empathetic about my situation, even though I didn't purchase anything. I didn't buy a service at the time. Well, now I'm ready. And now I think it's time that I'll go back to Mark, I'll go back to Chris, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, we got to play the long game here. Put in your time, build those relationships constantly. Value gets thrown around so much, but somehow provide them something with value, whether it's information or resources. Williamsburg's a very tight-knit community, and the surrounding community, people. Look people up with other resources and other folks that that might be able to help them. You might not be immediately to do it, but they're going to come back to you knowing, hey, this person is looking after my best interest. And that's what they're really looking for.
All right, so I have something from Tyler Adams. How are you? Long time no see. So challenge that they are facing is communication with clients now that many are working from home instead of the office and tracking them down. Many are overwhelmed with emails and phone calls and usually work well by getting a number to reach them. So how do you kind of navigate through that world of emails? Because I know I get at least 70 a day and I want to help everybody, but it's so overwhelming.
Well, I'll touch on this. You're absolutely right. I mean, anybody with an email address nowadays, you get 100, 200 emails. I mean, a lot of it's junk. The way I approach it is when I do get the phone call with the individual, one is flexibility. Flexibility. The world is not 9 to 5 and it's not Monday through Friday.
Right.
You have prepared to work late, work on the weekends, things like that. I'm not saying sit in the office, 12 hours a day, just be available. So if someone does say, hey, you know what, Chris, I would love to chat with you on Saturday at 4:00. Absolutely. So now you get them on the phone, you have that one-to-one connection with the individual. Now, when you do that, how I follow up is, for instance, in my field, I let them know you do as much in the discovery phase as you can. This is what their needs are. This is what they're looking for. And this is how you can benefit them. Now, I always leave it off with this. I'm going to send you some emails. And I know what you're saying. No more emails. Well, this way, I'm going to send you some video links. So this way, when you get a little time and you are comfortable, not trying to teach the children and work, answer work emails, maybe, while you're settling down for the night. Oh, there's a video of Morningside I want you to take a look at. But it's something a little different. People are more prone to delete emails. They're more prone now to watch a video. So right. How many you've seen a link where you're like, absolutely, let me play that video. So play the video for them, personalize it if you can, and I guarantee you get more of a response.
Yeah, video messaging. That's a brilliant. I've seen a lot of companies do that where they're literally responding to whatever question they had or follow up in a video. Hey Charles, this is what you were talking about. Let me show you. They're showing them what's going on. And then they can view it whenever they're available, not necessarily when you're available. So it's a great strategy. Asking them up front about their preferred way of being interacting with. I know there's some generational things that are going on. Let me tell you, that's been thrown out the window because of don't assume anything. You might have somebody that's later on in their years, it's absolutely about text. They want them to come in by text. It's the easiest way to do it. Or video. I've had folks use a messenger. They'll send voice clips or something like Voxer, to where they'll use voice clips and they'll post it on Messenger, and then I can listen to it whenever I want to and respond to them when it's convenient for me. But to your point, Chris, being wildly flexible nowadays, I think we used to covet our time. You know, I don't want to push this into my family. I mean, yeah, you gotta create some boundaries, but you gotta work for it now and be a little more flexible than you used to be. And I think most people watching this are working hard. But try, again, just like prospecting, try different strategies with communicating with them at all. And you're right, a lot of people are getting this, what's called Zoom fatigue. They're tired of doing this video chatting stuff because they're like, I don't want to interact with anybody. Just give me either phone me or let me talk to you on my terms. I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. More control in their lives. That's what they want. What else you got? That was a good one.
Okay, so actually this one, Fred Hayes asked, and it's kind of segueing with the videos. Are you shooting, like, are they professional videos, or are they just kind of like a selfie version on your cell phone?
Yeah, I've seen both. I've seen professionally done videos. I have seen amateurish like this, that they're just done on phones. The technology now is way different than it was even a year or two ago as far as the quality of stuff. I think when you're doing, so say you're doing a professional pitch and you have like slides you want to share and that sort of thing, the more you get to that looking professional and maybe hiring a firm, the better you can. I think what's more important is what you're showing them and what you're telling them. As long as the content is good. And honestly, this is my personal opinion. Authenticity is a big thing now. They want to know who they're working with, what you're like. I mean, it's great that you're polished and you have to consider your environment, but they also want to know that you're real, that you're a human being. You're going through something that when they can relate to you, they're probably more likely to do business with you. So I don't want to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth. Keep in mind your client, how polished you want it to look, and is there a way to balance authenticity? Now, do you want a shaky camera that no one can see and it's distracting? No. Do you want to hire, an acting crew and get everything else due? Yeah, if you've got an educational series, that's one thing. So kind of feel your way out, and keep in mind your ideal market and what they would probably prefer. The better looking, obviously, with good sound and light, that sort of thing, the better. But the message is more important than how it looks, in my opinion. But it still matters how it looks. Just do with what you can, would be my advice.
Piggyback on that, you're absolutely right, Chris. No one wants to see a shaky video. That's not ideal.
It's fine, man. It's fine.
What the approach that I take, we have some professional videos done of the community. We send them out. That's the initial. I mean, that's right after the phone call. And then when you get to know the person a bit more, what they're looking for, if you can make a custom video, but, for instance, I have a tripod, I have things along that, different applications you can use to make it a bit better. And that way you can kind of tailor your information. So you're hitting them with, the professional made videos of the community and whatnot. That's absolutely perfect. And then you can, tailor it to the individual. If they're like, hey, specifically know about something, talk about that. And then with that personalized message really hits a home run with the clients.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do whatever your budget requires. I mean, getting a tripod or what you have access to, getting good lighting, getting a lapel mic, all those are fairly inexpensive to put together something that looks what I call B+, A- to get it there close. You don't have to spend a ton of money. It just depends on how good you want it to look. What else you got? These are good.
All right. We've got time for one more question, and this is from Erica Guess. How have your sales funnels changed if in-person meetings are not happening? And what creative solutions have you employed?
Chris,
you broke up on the last one. How was my what changed?
Oh, I'm sorry. How have your sales funnels changed if in-person meetings are not happening? What creative solutions have you employed?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's absolutely me 100%. I work in healthcare. Now, once COVID hit, nobody wants you in anywhere. So you got to kind of think outside the box, understand who you were dealing with in terms of I keep calling them fishing ponds, understand what you were doing there. If it's a staff of people, if it's social workers, get them. If it's coffee, bring them lunch, cater them lunch, things along that line. You have to understand first and foremost, they're people. We're all going through COVID stress, not only at home, but at work. A lot of us still have to go to work every day, and we're just changing. Every day there's new protocols going on to kind of keep people safe. So just whatever you can do to make their life easier, they're not going to forget you. Just keep dropping off meals, dropping off things along that nature, seeing how you can assist them. Really, you'll keep in good graces. And then at the end of the day, if you really believe in what you're selling, which I do, it'll sell itself. So just kind of, work the market.
Right. And I'm not clear on the question because we're talking about sales funnels, which is typically a term you would use on an online content. But I guess what I'm going to key in on is how do you interface with folks that you're used to seeing face to face. I think to your point, Chris, being flexible with how you do that. I was working with a client that's on the far western side of the state, and there's some technology barriers. They can't do Zoom. They don't know how to do this. Well, there's this old thing called a phone that some folks are amicable to. They're different. I think freeconferencecall.com. There's ways to actually do conference calls that can be recorded for free, so you can use the notes, that sort of thing. You can do it with most iPhones right now or smartphones. You can conference call folks that way. You can try. I mean, most folks know how to FaceTime. You could do it that way because you've got a smartphone. So there are ways to kind of use different strategies to circumvent that I used to see people face to face. And because we've been doing this since March, people are more amicable to be doing it remotely or with some other gadget than they're used to. It might be frustrating, but there are some ways now. If you can meet at a cafe, every place is a little different as far as following a protocol, COVID protocol, and you ask them if they're comfortable with that. You have to be comfortable with it too. You may have some health concerns. They may have some health concerns, but there may be ways meeting outside of your environment, literally outside, within protocol norms that may be amicable to them, that you can run past them. Hey, you can't come to the facility, but I'm happy to meet you. We're going to go outside the football field, and you're going to be at the 50-yard line. I'm going to scream at you with a megaphone. However creative you want to get, but just be flexible and be creative with ways that you can maybe get around working with the typical coffee conversation that we've had. But you could even do coffee virtually now. You can drink whatever beverage you prefer. With a interface like this.
Well,
anything else?
That was all the questions we had.
And you may want to text her or check to see if we kind of answered her question the way she wanted. I was just a little unclear on the question.
Okay, I can do that. But anyways, I guess we will wrap it up for today. Thank you to Chris, Mark, and Chris for the discussion today. This live panel discussion is going to be a continuing series here at the Business Council, and the next session is set for Tuesday, December 8th at noon. And your input is important to picking the topic. So I put a survey link in the chat. So if you could fill that out and let us know what kind of topics you're interested in discussing, we would love to hear from you. And one last thing before I end the call. On Thursday at 3:30, the second annual 15 Under 50 Awards is happening. So if you have time to hop on the call and congratulate the second round of winners, we would greatly appreciate, and they would greatly appreciate your support. And I provided the link to the Business Council calendar in the chat as well. So thank you, everybody, and we hopefully will see you next time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Can't get it to end. My screen is frozen, so. Okay. All right. There it goes.